Welcome, brethren. How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody had a good week. As was alluded to, I guess we have some cold weather coming, which is good because it kills the bugs. Welcome to those on the webcast. So let me go ahead and get my stopwatch going. So as many of you may know or may not know, I work in Northwest Arkansas. In Northwest Arkansas, there's a lot of philanthropy, and there's a lot of hiking trails, a lot of walking trails, mountain biking trails, as it will be. So it was about a day before, a coworker asked, "Hey, we're going to go hiking. You want to come hiking with us?" "Oh, sure, I love to hike." So I get there. My expectation was from Colorado, or lived in Colorado for a long time, and from out west. And I was thinking, well, these are going to be like Colorado trails. You know, you have like a deer trail. It's been cleared out a little bit, maybe, so there's no big logs, but there might be some small logs on the trail. And, you know, you have a high elevation gain. And the easy trails out there are maybe not what we would call easy. And the hard trails are extremely, extremely hard. My wife and I, we would scramble on these boulders. These boulders would be big as Volkswagens. And yeah, the goal was like, let's get to the top of this hill. It's, at 10,000 feet or 9,500 feet. And so we would do that. And, a couple hours later, yeah, we're done. So I get there, like a typical trail parking lot, other than this one was paved. Okay, this is different. We get on this trail. We're going to go hiking. It's going to be about a 4-mile hike. And there's concrete. Oh, yeah, you have to walk on this before you get to the trail. Okay, as we're walking up there, getting to the trail, about a mile to the trail, there's a coffee bar. Oh, they serve beer too? Okay, this is different. So we finally get to the trail. It had stairs. What's this? And I'm thinking to myself, this is Disneyland. This is all an illusion. So the reality was that my expectation was one thing, but what I saw was something totally different. It was an illusion. And I'm sure there's people from that area that grew up there. When they think of hiking, when they go out to Colorado, like, whoa. So at the end of the day, we did the hike. We got the 6-7 miles in or whatever it was. Maybe it was 4, I don't remember. And it was a walk in the park. It wasn't a hike. Our time together today, we're going to explore one, if not, of the biggest illusions recorded and discussed in the Bible. This illusion can keep us out of God's kingdom if we fall prey to his deception. It's so subtle. But there's a clear warning. I'm sure most of you will recognize it once we get into it. This illusion can be found in Revelation 3, verse 17. We'll turn to it in a moment. When we look at this illusion, we're going to look at a specific statement, specifically, I am rich. We're going to discuss what Jesus warns about this attitude, and we're going to look at a couple of examples. The title of this sermonette is Illusion - Self-Deception of Revelation 3:17. So let's get into it. Let's go ahead and read Revelation 3. We're going to read verses 15 through 17. So starting in verse 15. I know your works, that you are neither cold nor hot. I could wish that you were cold or hot. Verse 16, so then, because you are lukewarm, neither cold nor hot, I will vomit you out of my mouth. Pretty strong. Verse 17, which we're going to specifically hone into. Because you say, I am rich, have become wealthy, and have need of nothing, and I have need of nothing, and do not know that you are wretched, miserable, blind, and naked. So we're going to look specifically at I am rich. Well, what is the best source of trying to get the intent of what God is trying to tell us, or what Jesus is trying to tell us in this verse? Well, you look for references that discuss that same verbiage. So in this sermonette, we're going to look at this, we're going to focus on the attitude. We're going to be reading some of the prophecies. We're not going to be talking about the prophecies, but what leads into these prophecies are human actions. And we're going to explore what the human action is that God didn't like, and then we're going to apply it to Revelation 3:17 to see what he's really trying to tell us. So our first example, if I didn't mention it, we're going to look at two specific examples, is going to be found in Hosea 12. We're going to read verses 8 through 9. And this is our first example of I am rich. So before we read to it, a little bit of context. Starting in verse 12, what is this passage about, getting into the context? God is admonishing Ephraim, or Israel. Sometimes they're kind of interchanged. And starting in verse 12, he says, Ephraim has encircled God with lies and deceit. So we kind of get a hint what's going on here. Ephraim allies himself with enemies of God. Verse 7, he talks about as cunning as a Canaanite. And that could also refer to merchant. In verse 8, Ephraim is dishonest. But when we look at the overall, what's being said there is, even though this Ephraimite has this attitude, has these flaws, if you will, but he views himself without iniquity. So let's get and read verses 8 through 9. And Ephraim said, surely I have become rich. This is this term we see, I am rich. I have found wealth for myself in all my labors. And this is Hosea 12. We're going to read verse 9. They shall find in me no iniquity, that is sin. But I am the Lord your God, verse 9, ever since the land of Egypt, and I will make you dwell in tents. So how did God respond to this attitude? Kind of self-deceit, really, if you boil it down to, this person has these 8 attributes, but they think that they're right with God, so to speak. And they don't see themselves with sin. So how does God respond to this attitude? Ephraim will be punished according to his ways. We're not going to get into the prophecies, but there's a lot. That's what the prophecy specifically is dealing with here. And one thing that's interesting here, he says, I will make you dwell in tents. Well, when we think of tents, we think of the Feast of Tabernacles. But when we take the context of this, what is God saying is, you think you're rich, you may live in this nice house, you may have all these nice things, but you're going to be reduced to living in a tent. You're not going to have anything. Our second example I would like to delve into is found in Zechariah 11, 4 through 6. In this example, in Zechariah 11, 4 through 6, this is again another prophecy. And this is the prophecy of the Good Shepherd, the basically society or the Jews rejecting Jesus Christ as the Messiah. But we're going to kind of look at this attitude of this rejection here. The first thing is before we get into the verse, is The bad shepherd, which we know is Satan or symbolizes, this bad shepherd is a symbol of Satan in many contexts. He leads people to slaughter. The bad shepherds, they sell out the people that they are leading. There's a lot of commentary about modern day applicability to that, I think. These bad shepherds, this attitude, they don't feel guilt about their actions. They bless God, and they think they are blessed because they are rich. Pretty bad deception there. They tie their wealth into being righteous. In reality, it's an illusion. They tie wealth into their spiritual state. And that's the illusion. If you look at their spiritual state, they're exactly opposite of what they think that they are. So we'll read Zechariah 11, verses 4 through 15. Thus says the Lord my God, feed the flock for the slaughter, whose owners slaughter them and feel no guilt. And those who sell them say, blessed is the Lord, for I am rich. And the shepherds do not pity them. What is the result? They will be divided and given over to foreigners and other kings. If you go against God, and we see this in Deuteronomy, God, foreigners will rule over you, and you will not own anything, even your own life. Their lives are divided, and their destinies are controlled by others. So let's pull these key points together as we apply it to Revelation. So in Revelation 3:17, riches may be a metaphor for self-righteousness. And what are these attributes that we read in these two examples? Deceitfulness, allied those that are against God, dishonest, sell out others, cause division, no guilt for sinful action. However, they, the Laodiceans, thought they were right with God and a follower of Jesus. What was God's response? And do not know that you are wretched, miserable, poor, blind, and naked. So the warning is there of riches. I think I'm rich. I think I'm close to God. I think I'm doing everything right. But in reality, our actions say otherwise. So how do we keep ourselves in check to ensure we don't fall prey to this illusion? Well, it's right there in the next verse, or in the second part of the verse. We buy from Christ. What do we buy from Christ? We buy gold refined in the fire. That is, as we go through trials, we stay faithful to God and relying on Him to shape us to be just like Him. What else do we buy? We buy white garments. That's a seamless life of godly character, following His commandments, doing what He says, doing good works to others, being that example, being exactly like Christ. Our focus is on Christ, not ourselves. We buy from Christ, salve. What does that say? What is He saying? Not being spiritually blind, and allow God to open our minds and show us the way that He wants us to go, not how we want to go. Oh, my pages are sticking together. There we go. So how do we buy from Christ? 4 quick points. We have a close relationship by talking with God regularly, as much as we possibly can. How else do we buy from Christ? We learn to be like God by reading the examples of what He's provided to us in His Word. And we try to live by those examples. Not that we're perfect, but we strive to live by that example and to become exactly like them, the very character, the exact image of Christ. We also buy from Christ by deeply thinking critically on the things of God, His messages, meditation. And we buy from Christ by showing Him that our whole reliance is on Him by fasting. So when we summarize all of these points, the illusion of being spiritually rich leads to self-deception. People may believe they are righteous and self-sufficient, but are spiritually lacking and blind to their true condition. That's the illusion. True spiritual wealth comes from Christ through faithfulness, godly character, and spiritual insight, which requires humility, self-examination, and reliance on God. So getting back to this walk, we got the hike in. Well, we got the walk in. We got the we got the physical exercise. But it wasn't a hike. It was just a walk. It was an illusion.